Welcome back to Treadway Makes Drinks. I'm Sam Treadway, and today we're talking about the original cocktail, numero uno, the Old Fashioned. Little quick history lesson. Once upon a time, in the late 1700s, early 1800s, there was a drink called the cocktail. An early written definition of the cocktail comes from 1806 in the Balance Repository, the Columbian Balance Repository from Hudson, New York. It was one specific drink, and that drink was some booze, some sugar, some bitters, and then some water. 4 ingredients, super simple. Now, of course, it just means a mixture of anything. You can have shrimp cocktail or a cocktail of drugs.
You're goddamn right.
Fast forward from like the early 1800s to 1850s, bartenders started getting a little more creative, a little more, sure of themselves, I would say. And you walk into a bar and you say, "Hey, can I get a cocktail?" And the bartender would be like, "Oh, well, I'm all fancy these days. What kind of cocktail do you want? I can do this, I can do that. I can do an improved cocktail." And you'd say, No, the Old Fashioned. And that's how we get the name. Where do we get the name cocktail from? Well, that's a funny story, and honestly, there's tons of different myths and legends. Anything around the history of alcohol often gets kind of fuzzy because, it's alcohol. The story that people that get paid to research this stuff, the story that's probably most accurate is also kind of a wild tale, but you gotta picture yourself as like a used car salesman, but like before there were cars. So you're a used horse salesman. And you're trying to sell your lame old horse that isn't jumping around too much. So apparently a practice that was used is you take a piece of ginger and you stick it up its butt. And of course, that would make the horse unhappy, and it would literally cock its tail up and prance about and put some pep in its step. And the idea behind this drink with putting some medicine, some bitters in your drink was you're curing that hangover, getting yourself right as rain, ready to rock. But what are bitters? How'd that get involved? Well, bitters started its life as a medicine, as a cure-all. These fake doctors in the late 1700s would be toting around being like, "Hey, try some of my elixir. It'll cure whatever's ailing you. Cure your headache, cure your stomach."
It's a brain and nerve tonic, rich in proteins and electromagnetic juices. It promotes robust health. Of course, it has been known to cause gigantism, but only in rare cases.
Fortunately, at the beginning, it was kind of frowned upon because it was kind of like, "Oh, really? You drink so much, you need to have medicine in your drinks?" Because it was a little bit of a hangover cure. But people realized that flavor was tasty.
It's like there's a party in my mouth and everyone's invited.
Added a little certain extra, little zestiness. It's kind of like adding salt and pepper to a dish. It's just like a little bit of seasoning. It brightens things up. With all that being said, let's teach you how to make the Old Fashioned. It is super simple. Start with some sugar. Of course, you can use a simple syrup. If you'd like, you can use just a small teaspoon of sugar. I like using sugar cubes because it kind of dissolves slowly into the drink over time. On top of that sugar cube, I like a lot of bitters. From a dasher like this, if you have this at home, like 5 good dashes. And then I also like orange bitters in there. A little bit of both. 5 dashes each of Angostura and orange bitters. And then I need to break up that sugar cube. So I'm just gonna tap down and like muddling this into a little bit of a paste. All right, and now I need to add the main event, some whiskey, a couple ounces of the good stuff, whatever spirit you like. That's the beauty of an old fashioned, is that you can pick any spirit, and honestly, you can pick any sweetener you'd like. You can pick different types of bitters. So it's a very versatile drink, but I'm going old school with some Sazerac rye. And on the end of this muddler, that's flavor country right there. So I'm gonna kind of rinse off the muddler. And now I have just whiskey, bitters, and sugar. That's it, except that fourth ingredient is water. So when this first was popularized, ice wasn't really a thing. It wasn't a standard cocktail ingredient. Funny thing to say, because the cocktail wasn't invented yet. Fast forward to 200 years later, it is super easy to just add ice. If you're gonna be adding ice, you might as well add some beautiful large chunk of ice like this. And if you wanna learn a little more about where this ice sphere came from, click the button. You don't want too much dilution, so I'm just getting the ice melting a little bit, so I'm not gonna be too aggressive. I'm just mixing everything together, getting the drink nice and cold. Now we're pretty much done, but I want to pay homage to the other part of the old-fashioned history, which is during that terrible time in our country's history, Prohibition. During Prohibition, it was harder to find good quality whiskey, so in order to mask the flavor of maybe a bathtub gin food coloring situation, bartenders were mixing in cherries, orange slices.
Rotten banana.
It adds to like the flavor of it.
Secret of the pros, yeah. Also, we're just trying to get rid of it.
And like topping with soda water to really mask the flavor of the whiskey. So adding in some citrus peels. I like to do a little bit of lemon and orange. So lemon oil on there, orange oil. And of course, you can leave it in if you prefer. I like the clean look of no peels in there. And there you go, an old fashioned. So there's the old fashioned. We'll see you next time. Cheers.